Niccolò Polo and Maffeo Polo were Italian traveling merchants best known as the father and uncle, respectively, of the explorer Marco Polo. The brothers went into business before Marco's birth, established trading posts in Constantinople, Sudak in Crimea, and in a western part of the Mongol Empire in Asia. As a duo, they reached modern-day China before temporarily returning to Europe to deliver a message to the Pope, taking Niccolò's son Marco with them. The Polos then made another journey through Asia, which became the subject of Marco's account, The Travels of Marco Polo. First voyage. Leaving Niccolò's infant son Marco behind, Niccolò and Maffeo left Venice for Constantinople, where they resided for several years. The two brothers lived in the Venetian quarter of Constantinople, where they enjoyed diplomatic immunity, political chances and tax relief because of the country's role in establishing the Latin Empire in the Fourth Crusade of 1204. However, the family judged the political situation of the city precarious, so they decided to transfer the business northeast to Solda, a city in Crimea, and left Constantinople in 1259 or 1260. The decision proved wise. Constantinople was recaptured in 1261 by Michael Palaeologus, the ruler of the Empire of Nicaea, who promptly burned and razed the Venetian quarter and re-established the Byzantine Empire. Captured Venetian citizens were blinded, while many of those who managed to escape perished aboard overloaded refugee ships fleeing to other Venetian colonies in the Aegean Sea. The new home on the north rim of the Black Sea, Solda, had been frequented by Venetian traders since the 12th century. When the Polos reached it, it was part of the newly formed Mongol state known as the Golden Horde. Searching for better profits, the Polos continued their journey to Surrey, where the court of Burqa Khan, the ruler of the Golden Horde, was located. At the time, the city of Surrey was no more than a huge encampment, and the Polos stayed for about a year. Finally, they decided to avoid Crimea, because of a civil war between Burqa and his cousin Hulagu, perhaps because of the bad relationship between Burqa Khan and the Byzantine Empire. Instead, they moved further east to Bukhara, in modern-day Uzbekistan, where the family lived and traded for 3 years. In 1264, Niccolò and Maffeo joined up with an embassy sent by the Ilkhanate ruler Hulagu to his brother Kublai Khan, both grandsons of Genghis Khan. In 1266, they reached the seat of Kublai Khan, the leader of the Mongol Yuan dynasty, at Dadu, present-day Beijing, China. In his book, The Travels of Marco Polo, Marco explains how Kublai Khan officially received the Polos and sent them back with a Mongol named Kokate as an ambassador to the Pope. They brought with him a letter from the Khan requesting 100 educated people to come and teach Christianity and Western customs to his people, and oil from the lamp of the Holy Sepulchre. The letter also contained the paisa, a golden tablet a foot long and 3 inches wide, allowing the holder to acquire and obtain lodging, horses and food throughout the Kublai Khan's dominion. Kokate left in the middle of the journey, leaving the Polos to travel alone to Ayaz in the Armenian kingdom of Cilicia. For that port city, they sailed to Sgin Dacre, capital of the Kingdom of Jerusalem. The long seat vacant between the death of Pope Clement IV in 1268 and the election of the new pope in 1271 delayed the Polos' attempts to fulfill Kublai's request, as suggested by Theobald Visconti, then papal legate for the realm of Egypt, in Acre for the Ninth Crusade. The two brothers returned to Venice in 1269 or 1270, waiting for the nomination of the new pope. Here Niccolò met up once again with his son Marco, now 15 or 16, who had been living with his aunt and another uncle in Venice since the death of his mother at a young age. second voyage. As soon as he was elected in 1271, Pope Gregory X received a letter from Kublai Khan, remitted by Niccolò and Maffeo. Kublai Khan was asking for the dispatch of 100 missionaries, and some oil from the lamp of Jerusalem. The two Polos returned to Mongolia, accompanied by two Dominican monks, Niccolò de Vicence and Guillaume de Tripoli. The two friars did not finish the voyage due to fear, but the Polos reached Khanbaliq and remitted the presents from the Pope to Kublai in 1274. It is usually said that the Polos used the Northern Silk Road, although the possibility of a southern route has been advanced. The Polos spent the next 17 years in China. Kublai Khan took a liking to Marco, who was an engaging storyteller. He was sent on many diplomatic missions throughout his empire. Marco carried out diplomatic assignments but also entertained the Khan with interesting stories and observations about the lands he traveled. According to Marco's travel account, the Polos asked several times for permission to return to Europe, but the Great Khan appreciated the visitors so much that he would not agree to the departure. Only in 1291 did Kublai entrust Marco with his last duty, to escort the Mongol princess Kokhasan to her betrothed, the Ilkhan Aghan. The party traveled by sea, departing from the southern port city of Quanzhou and sailing to Sumatra, and then to Persia, via Sri Lanka and India. In 1293 or 1294 the Polos reached the Ilkhanate, ruled by Gaikartu after the death of Aghan, and left Kokhasan with the new Ilkhan. Then they moved to Trebizond and from that city sailed to Venice. Popular culture. Niccolò and Maffeo Polo are featured in the Assassin's Creed series, having become key figures in the history of the Assassin Order. The brothers are also featured in Netflix's historical fiction series, Marco Polo.